So let's get started with today. Thank you everyone for coming to the live class. It means the world when you guys attend the live class because it feels more like a live class. I don't really like doing offline recordings. They're my least favorite way to teach. I do have to do it sometimes because of when I'm tutoring students one-on-one, sometimes I have to record things offline because of time zone restrictions. But I don't like it in general because it feels like there's nobody to respond, there's no one to ask questions and to follow my train of thought, to perfect their communication skills, to communicate their worries as they appear. So I like when you guys ask questions, I like when it's interactive. So if you guys can, in your own way, announce it, spread the word about my live stream, and hopefully anyone who's watching it on YouTube and has the time to comment, let me know kind of what you prefer. Is it YouTube? Is there a possibility that you guys might be interested in attending live sessions? There was a time when I was seriously considering dropping all live sessions because not a lot of people come. But I think that's because people aren't getting notifications because YouTube just has significantly affected a lot of channels. Today I'm going to be having a look at 4 pieces, hopefully. This is an amazing submission for the Harvest Goddess, but there's some discontinuity in the design that I just want to discuss. Some lighting here, some gesture character here, and a perspective and character design here. So a little bit of everything. But hopefully we can get to it because that's what makes things fun, is that we're coming in from different angles, different kinds of art. There is no minimum skill requirement. All beginners are welcome, whatever beginner means nowadays. And all types of art is welcome except anime. Okay? Why no anime? Because it's it's not skill-based, it's niche-based. It's almost a fetish, to be quite honest with you. And it doesn't have a lot of space where I can seriously critique it. Like, what am I supposed to do to make it realistic? Like, I can't critique anime without changing it completely, and that's why I don't welcome it, because it's not alterable. It's cookie cutter, literally character selection cookie cutter. So the October design brief has already been pinned to the top of the community, and let's discuss it. Design a character design lineup of ghoulish Halloween-themed classical characters. So Halloween-themed classical characters meaning Nosferatu, the Witch, the Mummy, and I don't mean draw them, I mean redesign them. So please draw a 5-character lineup exploring Halloween-themed characters. The twist: the classical Halloween characters must have a unique take applied. So no basic recreations of the witch, vampire, or mummy. That means that I'm not going to teach you how to be unique. If I have to teach you how to be unique, that's not the point. So if you guys want all these different explanations and everyone's always messaging me about please elaborate what unique take means, I don't know how to answer that question for you. If you don't know what I'm saying when I say unique take, then you've missed the point. How can you redesign a witch and re-deliver the concept of a witch? What can you do to her? What is she made of? What kind of character is it? Don't just draw a basic human witch. Draw something unique to it. Change what kind of color she is. What is she made of? What is she a witch of? You have this really, really free reign design brief here that you can do a lot with, but it just has to read as a classic character. So it just has to read as a classic character. So from a quick look, we can tell, hey, that's a witch. So you can keep the pointed hat, but you can't give her a broom and a black dress and some really nice Instagram makeup and a lot of curves. That's not good design. That's cheap. So do something else in that way. So it could be oh man, I'm not even going to do it because I'm not going to give you what I'm thinking in my mind for what a unique witch looks like, because you're just going to redo it yourself. That's my own version of it. I'm not going to share it. But I would explore with shapes. I would make it read as a shape first if I were to give you a clue. I would, because you guys are always waiting for me to give you my idea so that you could do it. That's not how this works. This is a design challenge. Okay, so you're supposed to feel challenged. Please stick close to the low detail line art style seen in the references below. You can click on those when you have time. No rendering. So this is not a rendered painting. This is a exploring volume by combining line art with basic 2D two-shade cell style coloring. So that means you choose only 2 shades for the color that you need per the object or part, and it's all line art. So I just want to talk about how lines need economy, they need efficiency, speed, brush stroke style, brush type. The critique hour for this challenge will focus on maximizing shape language, directing focus through detail cluster, and the principles of animation and how these elements make up for the lack of realism in an animated frame. How do you have realistic characters by not painting realistically? Are you guys following? Please write a 1 or a plus or a thumbs up to tell me y'all are listening right now. So the critique hour for this challenge, the summit will work as a stepping stone into more eye-catching and appealing character designs. Please make sure that character lineups are standing with personality. So no random T-pose stances and basic symmetrical poses unless the character's personality requires it. So if it's a Frankenstein who is a scientist at the same time, hint, hint, this is how you make it unique. And he is wearing a lab coat, but he's got very distinct Frankenstein features, which are his little bolts on the side of his neck. Then he's standing all type A with his hands around his hands on each other like Mr. Burns. Then that's okay. So you may have all kinds of creatures or humanoids in this challenge, but try to keep it close to human-like form so they can still have a human form. So we can discuss stacking spine, hip, and knee rotation in a standing figure drawing, and more on figures and gestures. The faces can also be stylized, but try to maintain the style between each character. Do not jump between styles for each character. Absolutely no anime. I do not want to see big anime eyes. I do not want to see a tiny anime nose. We can all tell when something looks and feels anime. And when something, and by the way, for the record, put this down. I don't care what Miyazaki thinks, and I don't care if he agrees with me. I really don't care, period. Studio Ghibli is not anime. I'm sorry. Anime is permanently the perpetual shifting and new definition of what anime means. That's all I'm going to say. Anime, it's just not anime. The way that it works, the way that it's designed, the way it's been written, there's so many tiers for what makes an anime, and Studio Ghibli is in a world of itself. If anime was part of Studio Ghibli's ancestry, okay, I accept that, but it's definitely not part of the current movement of anime in media, period. So if something looks Ghibli-esque, it's not anime, and I accept it. Okay. So that's it. Enjoy the challenge. Try to have fun. It's a sketched character design ghouls that's free reign. It doesn't get more fun than this for a challenge. It doesn't get more easy either, because you don't have to render and think about light environment all that much, though you do have to think about it a little bit. So that's the design challenge. As for Patreon, just as I wrote up here, if you're benefiting from this community and all the free education you get, I put a lot of thought into these design challenges, and the last 6 months of the year are just cram-packed. Is that the term? Scram-packed. They're just packed with a lot of challenges and fun events and all this stuff. So if you want to become a patron, you just have to join as a $1 patron. If everyone joined as a $1 patron, 1.8K of you, if you all joined as a $1 patron, obviously there's taxes and there's a Patreon fee. I really wouldn't need to ask for Patreon ever again. Or announce it before the classes or anything like that. If you're benefiting, if you're sitting right now and this video is going to get eventually 2,000 views, 3,000 views, if you can deal with the checkout experience of Patreon and just put in your card and whatever you have to do, and if you feel like this community is worth that effort, please do. It's welcomed, and it's not a lot out of many people. I don't expect everyone to join as a $20 patron, though the $20 apprenticeship is the equivalent of private tutoring with me. And you enter the Discord privately, and you are given monthly assignments and monthly critique hours and my personal work. There's a lot of rewards for being a $20 patron, but it takes more work than the $1 patron. There's also tiers in between. You can do $5 or $10. There's no classes for the 5 or 10, but you give a little bit more. If you guys want to join, please do. This community really, really, really needs it. As you can tell, YouTube has been really slowing down my channel a great deal. I used to have 200 viewers. Guess how many viewers I have right now on the live stream? Well, I started off with 33 viewers. It's at 58 right now. So it's really, really gone downhill significantly, and this community needs you to make a small contribution whenever you can. My goal is 1,000 patrons, but if we can hit more than that, that'd be amazing. I hope I'm not asking for a lot. I'm trying not to ask for a lot, but if you guys can, throw some support my way. My channel really needs it, and I appreciate it. And I've been doing this a long time, and I haven't censored my videos. I haven't shortened my videos. I've given all that I have to give. If you guys feel like supporting my channel, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for listening to the announcements. Okay, let's get started. So we have this piece right here, and I can't really explain this without actually having a live scene in front of me. So I'm going to try to set up Portrait Studio here really, really quickly. Okay, actually, I'm just going to leave her where she is and just rotate her and try to create the same pose. So she's kind of crouching. Oops. Okay, but her head, I believe, is tilted up and that way. And the arm is tilted that way. Alright, I just need the reference open while I'm doing this. Kind of hard without taking a screenshot of the reference with me. Okay, so I'm just gonna get this out of the way and rotate this back up. And I'm just trying to create that same spine bend, like, okay. I think her head is tilted back just a bit. Okay, and I'm gonna adjust the lighting so it's similar. It's coming, the arrow should be doing what your arrow is doing in your reference. So it's kind of like that. And I need to remind you that you really shouldn't start a painting without setting this up first. And the crouch that you're doing isn't realistic. It doesn't feel realistic. I think it's really forced. It would have to be some kind of dance student or something similar to that we have the result, this kind of spine rotation. So what do we do right now in order to make this feel like a more realistic pose? We really would have to zoom out and enlarge the canvas and just track down what your spine is doing. This person must be doing something like leaning really, really hard and really forcing the human spine shouldn't do this much. This is a medical condition like osteoporosis. Maybe the spine would crest down here. Now that feels more realistic. That's where we would have that zenith point in the spine. But I feel like we need to get rid of a lot of this in order for this to feel realistic. Another problem with you guys when you do portraits is that you bring in these different elements, the way you deliver it, and the way you deliver a portrait, and I talk about this in my latest process video, you don't want to bring in natural elements if it's a still closed room. Where's all the wind coming from? It feels artificial when you guys do that. So when you're bringing in this really, really windy hair and there's no external light environment, there's no indicator for this environment, it's just there just to be cool, that's just bad photography. And I wouldn't really encourage that in a painting. That if the hair is like flat and hanging, it does a lot more to represent the character or atmosphere in the mood of the painting. And then in a second I'm going to talk about the lighting scene that I set up here. So something that's been happening in the comment section, it's really weird because people who don't appreciate my channel are the ones commenting. I don't care what you have to say. I really don't. And that's not for people who are genuinely critiquing what I thought. Maybe they disagreed with a change. I don't care if all you comment is the before looked better. I don't care for that. There are 1,000 reasons why a before might look better, but there are even more reasons why the changes were applied. They are principles of design. They are questioning whether or not there was planning. They're questioning the light source. They're questioning the story, the narrative. There are 1,000 reasons why some changes need to be applied. And whether or not I don't have time in the 25-minute window per critique to apply every single one of these just so you're impressed, I really don't care. I really don't care if I don't have enough time to impress you so that the before and after impresses you, or you're amazed by the before and after. I hopefully make a case so that the work looks better, and then in that encourage you to do your studies more. I hope I've made a case for the studies, and thinking better about your art and taking your art career seriously so that you apply more work and effort into your planning. I hope I've inspired you, and the before and after looks great. But when the before and after looks wonderful, even from my own standards of myself, and you guys still say this is not good enough, if maybe it did impress you and you just don't want to admit it, if you like 5-minute time-lapse videos of how to draw an anime face, girl with tits, you can go there. But I have never been more just, I don't give a rat's ass about your opinion than at this point in my life. I've never been like I've never given less shits in my life. I've been through too much hell in my life to worry about the 10 or 15, for some odd reason, influx of bad comments on every single video, where the average per video is like 2 comments a video. So I don't care. I don't care if it doesn't impress you. The point is, I'm still offering you an education that you'd have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars, and a skill that will make you thousands and thousands of dollars. If you can't see the benefit of what I'm offering you, you're either blind, vapid, disconnected, spoiled, any one of those, or even something worse. You have no self-esteem. You like damaging other people's efforts. You are genuinely impressed and don't want to admit it because of a pride problem, but just keep it off my channel, because guess what happens to your fun little comment that you invited your friends to like? It gets deleted, okay? And I couldn't care less if I'm not impressing you. I couldn't care less if it's just a personal rant I needed to get out there. And I hope you know I'm not just, you guys need to remember, I'm not just a docile little princess. I have been known to fight back. So I don't know. I hope that has made my point. I have made my point. Let's move on. So I corrected the arc in the shoulders so that they feel a little bit more natural. And unless you were going for like a Caliban character from the Tempest, or you're going for a Quasimodo type, deformed but beautiful, kind of like high abstraction body type, I really recommend correcting that, because she looks even more bony now, or he, and the hair, the head is actually a little bit big, and I feel like it got enlarged because you added the hair. Usually when I add hair, an issue comes up, and I end up for some reason making the head seem way bigger than it really is. Okay, and then I'm just going to get rid of this, and let's talk about the lighting. So right here, Portrait Studio is open, and I'm just going to rotate and then try to just capture something similar, at least, hide joints in the lighting, so we have a bit more perspective on this one, actually. So what you don't have, I mean, I'm happy I don't have bounce light on, because I really want you to take a look at the core shadows. You have this like continuous light, even though the light you indicated was coming from here. You have this like really continuous light everywhere that seems to wrap around the character. So I'm radially dropping the values down. right now. And just look, just around the arm as well. Just wrapping and dropping that. I'm going to show you what that did. It reinforced the geometric anatomy, which is a term I use. You locate the anatomy equivalent of that geometry, or the geometric equivalent of that anatomy. So a chin would be a sphere or an oval, a nose would be a rectangular prism or a triangular prism, or the whole forehead area is a big square. And we just continue that pattern in our thinking because it helps us locate core shadows. And when they are spherical or organic globular shapes, they help us when to drop our values, when to raise our values, what size brush to use. So, oopsie, I didn't do that right. Alright, so we drop the value so that we actually feel like we're rotating towards the head. And so let's think about it as a basic sphere. We're doing the same thing on the other side, but at a much lower degree, because the light is being pointed to one high point on the sphere of the head, which is right here. And if I were to draw a grid line or a mesh line to show like where all this is, this is the high point, right? And this all moves away from the light, this all rotates away from the light, and then we eventually get to a nice reveal on what exactly to do with our values. So there's a reason why I duplicated the layer, because I need to erase away wherever these high points are, and I'm erasing at a radial pattern too. Radial just means soft brush on low opacity, built up like a little sand pile until we reach the high point or low point. And get this, you can use this exact method, so low opacity, high feed, on every single component. It helps you render everything realistically. And then there's a little core shadow right there for the arm. Actually, it would be a little more different than that. And I just use the background value if I don't want to use pure black. And then there's the lower part, and then there's the shadow for this muscular structure. And guess what's coming through? This really, really realistic representation of every single one of these pieces here. And I'm not so sure about your muscle structure. I mean, it seems to work. I think this is much less bumpy, much less high in elevation. And then I'm just erasing the top of the shoulder, the cylinder here. Okay, so you have a lot of issues with the portrait. It's not reading as any one particular gender, but just look at what the difference is when you radially shade with your geometric anatomy in mind. Before, after. So this is what I mean by doing your form studies so that you have a visual instinct, like you visually feel, like your spidey senses tell you, hey, wait. I feel. It's not I know, it's I feel. All right, write that back to me. It's I know only after you're done with my class and you wrote down your notes and I ask you the question and you answer it. That's I know. That's when you're reiterating my fundamentals back to me. I feel is what happens when you're painting. I feel like something should sit there. I feel like this is what this would look like. That's how it works. You feel your way around shading. Okay? So for anyone asking for Portrait Studio, it's going to be on sale. So just wait if you can. It'll be 50% off by the start of November. But if you want it now, it's available on my store. So you feel your way around the shading because of so many times that you've done this study, you know exactly what you're supposed to be doing. You feel like there should be a shadow there, especially with the light being high, especially with the light being soft, and with the room being that black. All right? And radial shading is both in the darks as it is in the lights. You slowly climb up to the highest point. You slowly drop down to the lowest point, and you're wrapping around that organic form study. All my students in private tutoring are assigned organic form studies till the end of time. If they're having issues developing this core skill, they are required to do organic form studies perpetually. Right? Because it's so vital to your ability to sculpt, because once all of the geometries are gone and you blend away the blocks aren't part of the end result. Write that back to me. So blocks aren't part of the presentation. Blocks are the underwork. Blocks are behind the curtain. What is part of the presentation? What is visible when the painting is done? That's radial shading. Radial shading is part of the end result. It's what people see. It's what people are looking at when they are looking at your finished piece. They can see the traces of your soft brush, or hopefully they don't see any banding, but they see the traces of your soft brush, and then they the image processes as a realistic volume-filled object. It's a realistic voluminous object. Is that a term, voluminous? Voluminous? All right. Blocks aren't part of the presentation, but they're part of the process. Write that back to me as well. Blocks aren't part of the presentation. So I'm going to want a summary of all the notes taken today. So if anybody here is taking notes, put it up on the side on a note taker thingy, and just throw them back at me as bullet points by the end of class. All right. So one thing that you're not doing right here in your final is that you're really not. Oopsie, wrong brush. Using my smudger. So just take a look at what just happened, just to show you. The bad brush is a brush that doesn't scatter. It does this with smudge tool. So if you still need convincing on smudge tool, this is not smudging successfully. This is a digital style smudge. We want a more realistic style smudge. So this is what a proper smudge brush will do. All right, this is pressing pretty hard right now, so I would keep it at like 6%. Okay, so that's another way that soft brush or radial shading are present in the painting with your smudging. And that's because soft brush can look too clean and too perfect. We don't want that. We don't want to feel like it's too perfect. We want that organic layering feeling, that organic bubbliness of skin. So it feels like skin when you're painting it. And you don't get that kind of really annoying look. The reason why she looks masculine if it's a girl is because the jawline is actually really, really strong. The whole head still feels very off to me. I'm just pushing in her jawline a little bit, which is going to thicken her neck up, but I hope the hairline can help us with that. I don't know if I even want to keep these muscles. Honestly, just over-rendered them just to show you what radial shading does. But if you want more feminine arms, you just got to get rid of the bumps of the biceps and the triceps, and you just make it one long, slender cylinder. And of course, you get rid of these. The brow bone was also really, really strong. Again, doesn't really matter if it's male or female that you intended. For the sake of the critique, I'm just going to go for female. Really low hairline. That's something that makes characters look masculine. A low hairline, kind of bulbous forehead is very masculine. Cheekbones that project out higher than the brow bone is very feminine. Brow bone that projects further out than the cheekbones is very masculine. A long nose is very, very masculine. A downturned nose is very masculine. An upturned nose is very feminine. A more flared upturned nostril is very feminine. And I can tell you have issues with your geometric anatomy because there's almost no indication of, or like no shape here in the cylinders of the mouth. You kind of just moved the brush around till it felt right. But remember that whole it feels thing. You still have to develop how to feel it. So that's why beginners are just going to get really good. They have to eventually build up that instinct where they feel like it looks right. I still want her sternness, that strong chin, that kind of scowl, natural scowl in her mouth. I still want all of that, so I'm not going to try to get rid of it all and make it a Barbie, but I want it to read as one particular gender. Okay, I am having like issues figuring out what exactly is happening, so because I need to flip the canvas. I'm just trying to do it without flipping first, but I'm gonna have to go back and flip it. Okay, so before, feels like a face that is an accumulation of developing skill and just a kind of misrepresentation of the gender. You're kind of just accidentally hopping in. Here we feel like we're aiming at a particular gender. And then we've got that slender arm that you might want, which means just making it more long and feminine. Got like the top right here. And we've got the chin, which is in its own little kind of class of shadow because it's so low. And then we have some fat around here, around the neck. That might help not make the chin feel so strong. I'm going to just flip the canvas. And you really need to start doing your organic form studies because this entire lower half is looking away from the light. And so it needs more shadow moving back. And so I'm just blending all of this because when we blend, we're representing fat pockets, representing pockets of fat that we can see. So I'm erasing here just to show where that starts. I can erase around the eye. I'm cleaning up the edges that you have. You have a lot of edges, which is a good habit to have, but it's not a good habit to have when you're trying to make things look realistic. So we still have that otherworldliness to her shape and to her form, to who she is, but we're still following some basic rules. You need to get rid of this big blotch of shadow that you had here for some reason. You are missing a lot of anatomical components around the body, like the bumps of the spine underneath the neck. And I'm just blocking in some areas that I couldn't correct with soft brush. And that's the areas that the light is accessing because it's getting to this half of the face and the rest is looking away. She doesn't feel bony enough or like, forgive the term, anorexic, if that's what you were going for. If that is the mood you were aiming for, she feels like she just has naturally prominent cheekbones. But on the other side here, I didn't take any liberties and make her cheekbone that strong on the other side. Because, it would really have to stick out for it to be the same shape you're describing here. It has so much shadow that you described, so much presence. It felt like makeup, so be careful when you are looking at references that have makeup where the cheekbones are really high. That's just the makeup. The outline of that cheekbone will reveal whether or not that girl's got cheekbones, okay? The side of the nose is facing the light, so just trust your block, trust your geometric anatomy, because it'll help you identify whether or not you're even putting paint where it's supposed to go. And any method out there, if I was young and developing and someone told me, here's a trick on knowing where to put paint, and you just have to do a couple of these studies and you'll know where to put paint for the rest of your life, I'd be like, give me that method right now. I'll pay for it. And that is just every possible combination. Just sketch it out as a diagram. Every possible combination of geometric shapes that can help you represent an object. A diagram. So it's not do a bunch of studies off a Loomis book and hope to God and pray you'll have a moment of epiphany. No, it's do a functional medical diagram almost of that area so that you know where to put paint when it's time, when a light isn't from an unusual area or unusual direction. Okay, the whites of the eyes here, they're a bit problematic because sometimes you want to raise the whites of the eyes while zoomed out, just so you can appropriately estimate how much would really be visible in that angle. As you can see, I tried to make an estimation while zoomed in and it's just wrong. And I'm radially building this up too. So from zooming out, and unless she's got makeup on, she wouldn't have that shadow underneath her eye. So I'm just going to bring it down so it fits in. But we would still have a dark cast shadow just there. The cast shadow of the nose on top. Okay, so tons of changes, but hopefully they've at least revealed to you workflow issues, whoever this artist is. And I backtracked quite a bit in the community to get this submission. Blending away. And then for hair to feel like hair, it needs a sheen to it. And that could be as easy as just this shape right here. Just kind of flatten the hair. I mean, there's so many paths. It doesn't really matter which one you choose. This one's probably the right one. Because it's just, as long as it has that pattern on it, which is that slight spike in the values, it's going to read as hair. That's what you're going to notice if you do texture studies. Sometimes some things just need this particular thing in order to read. And read means like feel like it's the actual object. Lots of talking about feel today. Okay, and the reason why I had to soften her eyebrows so much is because the eyebrow area does not hang so low on a female. It's actually very open, especially if you're drawing photogenic people. Photogenic characters are usually characters that you can paint very easily as well. And then we'll look at the before and after. And as for this area right here, which is reading is super awkward to me, I'm just going to treat it as one whole shape. But if it was a male, do the same thing. I told you what was male, what wasn't male as I was critiquing. So yeah, you can make your choice when you do your corrections, but I'd love to see them. And then there's just zooming out all the way, and it's just the total motion of the light in the room. We have more shadow on the lower half of the painting, also radially applied, and more and less shadow on the upper half. The head gets its own little appreciation in that way. And the top of the shoulder really shouldn't have any shadow. It should just be a flat light. And anything after the shadow should be in, anything after the light should be in shadow. So select inverse. And we have all of this. Okay. So that's the space behind, and that was just a quick little lasso, and the rest I would just correct with smudge brush. And my smudge brushes are also in my store. I'm probably going to need soft brush for that. It's too big a job for smudge brush right now. And just look, the same exact method. It's also radial. And then I delete the rest. Something also weird that I've noticed, it feels like the people who use YouTube are different now. It feels like everybody who used to use YouTube is not people who I, recognize, or people who, the type of student that used to attend the class, the type of comments I used to get has also changed. Like everything has changed. I'm blending a bit here. And we can leave most of these brush strokes, in their tail, that they're fine the way they look. I cut off that outline you had around the nose because that was a sign of weak values. You didn't need an outline around the nose like that. The nose, if it does not sit in shadow, it just does not have an outline. And if the upper half of the nostril isn't in shadow, there's no reason for you to bring in shadow. You're breaking the rules of physics, and that's when art looks bad. Before, so I think it was a man, but I'm not entirely sure still because of the gesture in the arms. But very, very flat, black against white. There's more of the room happening here. And we haven't even brought in highlights. And something else, something really fun you can do to bring in even more mystery is just completely drop the scene like that. Okay, and then leave behind only the brightest areas. So we're, how would we do this? Oh, okay. So we would do it like that. And just slowly deleting away at only the bright areas. Also deleting radially. Just areas where the light really comes in and focuses. And just look at what's happening. Less exposure to represent the type of room we're sitting in. And that's how you get paintings that move people, paintings that would be a book cover. I mean, this is speaking volumes now. It wasn't just about this overrepresented strength in the back, and that black background that you had. I don't know if that was because you wanted to study against a black backdrop. I don't know, why would you do that? Because your light environment is the most important thing in the painting, and if your light environment is black, then you have to adjust the entire painting to match it. I still tried to keep some influence from the choices you made, like the really strong chin. I loved her mouth. Same exact mouth still, just a different head size. Alright, so there's the first before, and this is the second, the first after, and this is the second after. Okay, and you still have so much black to use. Look, this is your darkest dark. You still can make this room scream volumes. You can still make some areas really, really pitch black. If you feel like doing it, some people prefer not to use blacks ever. Some artists never, ever use black. And that's okay, because they just feel like it's not going to do anything for the painting. They stay with it. They stay away from it on principle. They don't want to depend too much on dark half of contrast, more like the light half of contrast. And maybe because it's just too, it doesn't actually contain any color in it, and they only want to use values that contain color. But this is how much more volume you have left at your disposal. And there's a lot of volume in the black to be used in the portrait as well. Right, but I would start at least with the room to help the room feel stronger. Okay, so that's the first before and after. So what are some of the notes that we've taken today? Sorry, one second. So what are some of these notes? Let's see them. right, so we started off with what kind of changes. I already left. I mean, I already took out all the history. All right, so let's see these changes. Anything that I asked you to write back, anything that, you know, I applied. Okay, so this is a Harvest Goddess submission. It's fucking amazing. Beautiful. But the one thing that threw me off is, apart from her comb arm, honeycomb arm, she really has no other superpower. She's just a really pretty maiden. And unless the religion specifies this is her only one particular power, for some reason, other than her being an elf, you know, it's not reading as a goddess. One thing you can do to make her read more as a goddess is to just have tons of those combs everywhere. A honeycomb everywhere, and some other quality that would represent her as either the queen bee or the honeycomb, I'm not sure, elemental, or, and then remember that basket we were talking about last time. So a goddess is described as always having some kind of golden plate. So like a big golden dish, you know, that's what she, you know, or some god made that for her. Some like blacksmith god made her that dish or something. That's kind of stuff I was going for when I wrote the brief, when I expected this out of you guys. So, you know, if it was a little bit more like that, and she had like a little golden plate or something like that, and that is what the fruits are in, and we have more of these everywhere. And then if she has a little bit more strength in that subsurface scattering around the ear to show that she is somewhere divine, somewhere rich and light. If her dress was a little bit more, so let's just, a completely wrong angle for that stupid ass stupid thing. And a white dress, just to show that maybe she's a bride, or she's a virgin, or she's the like the virgin goddess of the harvest. Would do so much more for your painting. You'd know exactly where to take it and not worry too much about it not reading properly. So change the dress to white-ish. Actually, before I do that, I'm just going to preserve the color. Change the dress to white. Oh. That way it has some goldenness to it. Drop the values down just a little. Desaturate. So she's wearing something white. More of those honeycombs. And then this is why I was just so adamant about creating that suspended foot. It's just so important to make your character feel like they are higher than us. Some kind of indication somewhere where the character feels higher. The skill, your execution, your rendering skill is just phenomenal. Another thing you could do to perpetuate the feeling of divinity is longer hair. Okay. More of that honeycomb power. Really get rid of that basket, because it's just it's so funny to me. It's something so modern and basic that, you know, that this goddess is holding. It's like, what's she doing? Where'd she get it? Bed Bath and Beyond? Where'd she get the basket from? Okay. So I'm just going to try to layer the changes one by one. The fabric studies, anyway. And I'm just trying to curb the effect of that basket, and maybe make it golden, just like the sheath that she, or whatever it was, what is this thing called? Select inverse. Right, she's reading more and more as like an elf goddess. The more we add, And then select inverse light environment. Should be brighter to match that scene. But if she was in a dark forest and only a certain amount of light was choosing her, I mean, it still works. You can even go darker. There's nothing else here that's reading as non-peasant. So again, she just looked very poor. Which again, maybe part of the, like for in Game of Thrones, you have like the crone and you have the wife and you have the, but even if I was to personify, I mean not personify, but to render these gods, the 7 from Game of Thrones, I would still give them some kind of super god prop, like a shield or a hammer or a needle and thread for the old crone or something. I don't know. Anything really that makes them feel divine or have a tool of some kind. And before, just like before, I enlarged the weapon because it just added so much to the superiority of the character. I know that she is cutting herself a little bit, and she could still do that. And then we also have now this, oh, what a pretty crescent shape now. We have her eyes, which are looking in different directions. She doesn't really feel divine. And we as artists always use the eyes to help us represent some supernatural or metaphysical elevation of some kind. Because it dehumanizes the character when we give some kind of stop to the visibility of the pupils and the iris. And yes, we do want to dehumanize an immortal god. That's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to paint a character that feels powerful, the kind of character we'd see on a Magic the Gathering card, not just a champion or something like that, but someone who's superior, divinity. And so we're using larger than life tools to represent them. I merged down like an idiot. Scale is increased significantly when drawing superior characters. Saturation is increased significantly. There's just so much involved in drawing a successful character that you have to start thinking like. You have to start thinking like all of these faculties. You have to start imagining all these faculties in your head. So I said goddess. I really couldn't have said it louder, that I wanted something that feels a little bit more divine. And so just imagine there's no basket here. You can keep all of this in here. And I recommend not just vegetables, because again, that felt very earthly, though it's valid. People do pray for vegetables. I recommend gold, little pieces of gold scattered in between the vegetables. So it's about riches as well. People pray for riches. People get riches. It's about silver. It's about pearls. It's about having more land. It's about maybe a horn of a cow, a bull, and maybe a couple of them, maybe some feathers, some chicken feathers or pheasant feathers. These are the things that are culturally driven. They are cultural symbols. They are the things we would put on a wreath. Some pine cones to represent trees shedding their fruit and moving forward. Some seeds. There's just so much you could do right now. You still have a lot of opportunity to do this, to help make her read as a goddess, because the before really just feels like a chill chick, and she's not really, she's just, I don't know what happened here, but she just has this one weird little power. You might as well get rid of it and just make it read as a normal person. But here we're trying to apply the feeling that they are a god, that she's the daughter of this like big great dude, or a Persephone, or Persephone's mom, Diathanes? No, I forget. Okay. Moving on. Only thing I really had to say to this was good job on your study, but when we study references, what we're trying to do, let me show you what happens to the figure when I make these edits. Still feels really natural. So when you're a good actor and you took good references, you're using all of the parts in your body. But if you're an artist and all you found was just this one reference and it really spoke to you, how do you make the reference read, how do you adjust the reference so that it's reading as stronger. And so you can enlarge his upper body, you can shrink his lower body. And then you can really push those hips out so that you get a better read in your gesture. Because you're already working with a boiled down version of the reference, and the reference is already a really bad actor. So you're getting a fraction of what you're supposed to be seeing. And you as an artist a student are going to be blind. And so you have to see this when you're looking at this. Because that's how you make more dynamic looking characters. Because right now your dude is just standing really awkwardly. You know, he's just taking a really bad photo of himself for Facebook. You want a character design that you're using them as a reference for a hero or a mighty character or Achilles. You want to know what to do with your reference so that you're bringing in more character. All right, so let's see what those notes are that you guys wrote. Okay, how do you feel about purposeful androgyny? If it's purposeful and it's done right, sure. It'll read as androgynous. If it's done wrong, it'll read as uncanny. To go about it, you have to study either gender a lot. You have to know what reads as masculine, what reads as feminine, so that you know when you're doing it. Purposeful androgyny is a deliberate choice you make for all the features. But there's always a starting gender, Snowdrop. There's always a gender that started first, and then the androgyny is that they look like the other one. So what did they start off first? What was the template starting gender? And what do they is it a boy with feminine features but very distinctly masculine nose, but with really, really long hair and low body mass? Is it a really masculine looking girl with no beauty to her, like an Amanda Nunes? I don't know if you guys know her. It's Amanda Nunes, right? She scares the shit out of me. Most androgynous female I've ever seen in my life, and kind of explains a lot about her life and and her job. But she is what I would say is androgynous, like without a doubt. But you can tell there's something feminine. But I've seen a guy who looks just like this. She's had one too many surgeries. Okay. So really, really strong upper brow bone, really, really distant nose to mouth ratio, wide mouth, eyes a little bit close set, but beautiful in that she has lower eyelid size. So she's got strong lower eyelids. And she does this shit for a living. Anyway, let's move on. This right here, the problem with this one is, let me just do a quick little pose. I'm just going to reset this and add a new model, the female. Okay, so what I'm seeing here, what I would have loved to see is, okay, let's imagine this is this, no, let's just leave it like that. Let's move this one. I would have loved to see this kind of angle for the spider, because she's just standing for the camera like all happy, and it doesn't seem like her spine is connected to her thorax. So it seems like she does this, and this is the legs. This looks like, you know, a child drew this. I know that you can do better. You're thinking about this entire design. It doesn't need for you to have mileage and rendering for you to have better research. Write that back to me. You don't need to be a good artist to research like a pro. So you could have just drawn the thorax, or it's not even the thorax, I think this is the thorax, and then thought about how the human spine might connect to it, and then how she's always kind of a little bit crouched forward, and then her neck, yeah, can look up a little bit, so we would actually be seeing a stacking effect. We'd be seeing shoulders, and then we would be seeing head, and then she could be just, you know, really, really dramatically pouring that vial down. Okay, and then she's like, and then she's got her little claws. Okay, so to pose this exactly for you properly, you're just gonna have to give me a minute. Okay, so she's doing that. I keep forgetting what. Okay, maybe not all the way back. Yeah, that's right. And then this little dude goes this way. This little dude does that. And then she's got her pouring arm. And then she's got the other arm kind of chilling. And then she's doing that. And then she's got her arm this way. And I gotta rotate that back because it's messed up. And then she could have her head kind of tilted up. But the whole body really is just like tilted down, and while she's got her big butt in the back there, and you've got the cauldron. She could also be rotating her body just a little bit to have that creepiness. You could also rotate the head just a bit more. You know, like ee hee hee hee. That's the only sound that's coming up. I don't know why she's such an old hag of a spider girl. So yeah, that was Portrait Studio. If you guys are interested in buying it, it's going to be available on sale from the 1st of November onward. I'm trying to announce it everywhere. If you have friends who you believe might need this, again, you don't need to be a pro to use it. You don't need to be a pro to do proper research. It's just about thinking about how you would construct this as a sculpture, but you don't need to actually go out and buy some clay. You can just do it with the mannequins that we have available. You can have different kinds of light settings. There's no cooking time or rendering time. It's real time, meaning that the pose and the light is right there in front of you happening, that you can adjust and access, and it's got different performance profiles if you have a computer that's a little bit on the lower end. Yep, and that's it for today. Thank you everyone for watching. Let's see what these notes are. I don't know who posted the notes. You need a particular feature on a texture to make it read as that object. Hair shine, read meaning feel. Good job. A person might not have so much strong cheekbones. This feature is hard to get the width of her hand rest right. Honeycomb arm is kind of creepy, but I like it. Yeah, it is really nice. Be careful with references. Some have makeup. Hi, Steffi. Alright. You need to be a good artist to research like a pro. Okay, so that should really come in handy when you're doing your challenges for October, because the October challenge on Reddit really requires a lot of research. Do some research on what you could, like right now we just saw a half spider witch. That is really cool. You could go for that. You could adjust it a little bit more. Just remember, no rendering is allowed. It's about line art, exploring volume, and cell shading. If you want to make it grayscale, you can go ahead and do that, but I encourage using colors. It can be dark or light environment. You can have a glowing aspect to it as long as you don't render it too much. Okay, and if anyone wants to support on Patreon, if you guys like what you saw here today, if you want to give back, you can always support just as a watcher. There's a reason why I call the $1 tier a watcher, because you're watching the community and you're subscribing to its success in the future. You don't necessarily get all the educational material of the highest tier, which is Apprentice, but you still are an active member of the community, actually giving back to the community, which means the world to me, because I put a lot of my effort into this, and a lot of my hope, and a lot of what I do that I don't do for free everywhere else, I do it for here, for you guys, pro bono. And if you guys feel like giving back, it's not a mandatory. It's not going to change the quality of my work. It might increase the longevity of my work, and for posterity, but I'm still going to be doing this whether or not you join as subscribers. But I really, really appreciate it when you guys do. A lot of people have recently joined as watchers. I really appreciate it. You guys are curbing a lot of the fees from Patreon. Thank you everyone for watching today. I'll see you guys on Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Bye everyone.